What's up, everybody? I grabbed my Snapple and not the microphone, so I messed up right there. How are you guys today? This is the last weekend before break's over, right? Anybody excited to go back to school? No? Nobody. This break is weird. This is the first time I've ever seen like a fall break before. Like back where I came from, like we didn't have any of that, so it's super weird. But it's been awesome to hang out with some of you guys during break. We're in this series called Inside Out. And really, we want to just talk about what happens on the inside when we meet Jesus, when we follow him. How does that reflect on the outside of us walking the campuses of our school, of us talking to our family? And so that's the heart behind this whole thing is just really how can our inside match up with our outside in what we do? So today we're going to kind of be talking about go and be for everyone. That's kind of the theme throughout this talk that I want you guys to just be thinking of. Go and be for everyone, which could be hard sometimes, right? We get so comfortable sometimes in our groups that we're like, oh, do I want somebody else to jump into my group? And so have you ever seen a group that you wanted to be a part of? I remember my freshman year in high school, I had just switched from a private school to a public school. And so that was the biggest, weirdest switch of all time, right? So I had to wear this weird polo shirt and these Dickies jean pants things. And it had a weird symbol on my shirt. And that's what I had to wear all through private school. And so when I switched to public school, I wore the same thing because I didn't know what else to wear. And so I looked so weird. And so I'm walking through school trying to fit in with these different groups. I had no friends that went to this school. It was just the one closest to my house. So I'm walking through the halls and literally I'm what is going on here? This is so weird. And so I'm okay, what group am I going to join? And so back when I was in high school, there's this group called the Bros. Now the Bros, they wore these Dickie shorts that they sagged them so bad that they looked what do you call them when they go to right here? I don't know, they looked weird. And so I tried to dress like that, right? So I bought those clothes. I wore this flat bill hat, and all the Bros talked about were three things. Don't judge me for saying this, I'm just referencing. They talked about riding dirt bikes, smoking weed, and listening to this rap called Cottonmouth Kings. That's literally what this group, but I wanted to join this group because my whole thing, in high school, I wanted to be popular, I wanted to date, the hottest girl in the school, and I wanted to be, the star, athlete. And so, when I'm, scouting out all these different groups, I'm okay, there's a lot of girls that hang out with those guys. I'm joining that group. So then I try and join in. I get denied. It didn't work. They're do you know ride a dirt bike? And I'm Googling on my phone. I'm what's a good dirt bike? A Honda 125. Yeah, I ride a Honda 125. This one from the picture. And it just did not work out, right? And so I'm okay, back to thinking, what group am I going to join now? Because I'm not about to do this thing called high school all by myself. And so as I'm walking through the halls, I played basketball my whole life. I know, I'm short and I'm Indian. You've never seen a basketball player like that. It just worked out. And so I'm walking through the halls, and I'm from the hood. And so, how can I not bring race into this? I was just not the right skin color with all the other athletes at that school. And so I'm walking through the hall, I'm trying to join this group, and it was all the athletes. And so I was literally 115 pounds, super skinny. And I walk up, I'm I think we played in the same basketball league growing up. And then they welcomed me in their group. They did not care about skin color, my height, that I was skinny and 115 pounds. They're oh yeah, let's go ball, let's go hang out. And so there's these two different groups, right? The group that I tried to join that I really didn't get in. And then there's the group that just welcomed me despite race, despite my physical appearance. They welcomed me in. And I was man, that's a good group. And so that's kind of what we're talking about in this, right? And so one of the best things you can do for your life is to find the right group, right? That sounds so weird. That's is that a line from Mean Girls? But it's for real, right? One of the best things you can do is have friends. I believe God created friendships for a reason. Like, I just think about, like, last night. I drove back to my hometown, Riverside, and I went to this concert. Anybody heard of, like, Lecrae, Christian rapper? There's another rapper, Andy Mineo. So me and my boys, we went to this concert yesterday back in Riverside. And so I had two groups of kind of, like, best friends, right? So there's my best friends, Mitch and Tyler, and through college we all studied to be pastors together, and we became best friends. So we all went to this concert together. Like, these are my guys. Like, they were my best men at my wedding. I love these guys, right? And so we're at the concert, like, we're having, like, these great conversations, like, yeah, Tyler, like, he's a middle school pastor. I'm like, how's everything going at church? And we're having these deep conversations about Jesus. And then I left the concert a little bit early because I made plans to hang out with my other friends after the concert. And these friends, they are not Christian. They're not Jesus followers. And so I went to go hang out with them. And it was awesome too, because I love having my friends who are Christians, and I love having my best friends who aren't Christians and who don't live like it. And we just walked around downtown Riverside, and it was awesome, right? And so I think these friendships are these friendships are so important, because I know in my darkest days, both of these friend groups got me through, right? I know in my best days, I got to celebrate with these friend groups. And for me, friendships just come natural. Like, I talk way too much, and I talk way too loud, but I naturally just, like, make friends. My wife is sitting over here. I love her. She's going to get mad at me for maybe bringing this up. But Bree kind of has, like, her 2-3 friends that she just likes, who I have, like, oh yeah, that's my best friend. And you'll probably hear me say that. And I have, like, 94 best friends, right? And so, then my wife has her, like, 3-4, like, best friends who she loves to hang out with. And God just wired us differently. Like, I'm, like, always out making friends. And she's like, no, I'm just cool with, like, the friends that I got. I'll make some other ones, but they're not going to be as close as her other ones. And so you can be on either side, right? You can be like me and just out making tons of friends in all these different friend groups. Or you could be like my wife, Bree, who again has great friends, but she likes her groups a little bit smaller than me. And God wired people differently. And some of you guys have found your friend group here in church. And that's awesome. Like, what Tim and I and Eastlake Church in general tries to do is we want this to be the easiest place to make friends. Right? Our church is all about making friendships. That's why we have growth groups, because it's all about friends. That's why we have family time during the service, because it's all about friends. Like, our whole thing is, like, we want people to have friends, because life is hard, and we all go through difficult times. And so our biggest thing is, like, what is the easiest way we can make it possible for people to build friendships here at Eastlake Church, especially in the high school ministry. So that's our heart, is friendship is so important. That's why we kind of wanted to talk about it tonight. And then there's another part of these groups, right? There's the part where it's our power to then decide who gets to be an insider and who doesn't. Sometimes we love our friends so much that we close our circle. I'm guilty of that, right? Like, I'm guilty through different friend groups, through high school, through college, now in my adult life, is like, that guy's cool, but he might just kill our vibe, like, in our group, you know? Like, we got something good going on right now. Like, do we want to really add, like this kid into our group? Like, that was literally my thought process, right? Through high school. I know I'm not the only one who thinks that. Again, my Mean Girl reference. That's what I saw during Mean Girls, right? No, you can't sit with us at this table. And we laugh at that, but in ourselves, we still have some of that in our minds. Even just walking through different schools. I love being a pastor. I love being a high school pastor. I love going to hang out on your guys' school campuses and just walking through and kind of just seeing how you interact with people at school. And we all, not all, there's probably some in here who don't, but a lot of us tend to keep our circles closed up because we don't want people in kind of ruin things. Like we have this momentum going on. And so I feel like a lot of us are guilty of that. And that's kind of the story we're going to be talking about tonight, is that. So even if we know we're right, and they're not great people who want to come into our group, but there's a little thing inside of us that says that we shouldn't act that way. Right? We know a little piece in us, a little piece in us, says that we shouldn't close our groups, that we shouldn't push this outsider away, and some of us might even feel guilty a little bit of that, but we're like, but I want my friends to still think I'm cool, I want my friends to still like me, and so it's this battle inside of us. And when we're talking about the Bible, right, Jesus had a friend group, right? Jesus, they called them the disciples. So Jesus has this friend group, and he also has this group of people that he's trying to reach to let them know who he is. And so that's kind of what we're going to be talking about today, is these two different groups. And so, oops, I didn't turn my volume down. And so what we're going to do is open up our apps. Does everybody have a phone? A lot of people have a phone. We have this Eastlake app. It is the best. So I want you to pull out your phone, download, if you don't have it already, the Eastlake app. If you do have it, open it up. You go to the student ministries, and there's a place for notes right there. It's an easy way to fill in the blanks, just so you can follow along tonight. It already has like the verses up. It's pretty cool. So open those up, and we're going to be talking about Luke chapter 10. So Luke is one of the 4 Gospels. He was a doctor, and so we're going to be looking at it through his lens, what he saw. And so what Luke saw was Jesus was teaching people. I mean, that's what he did. He was a teacher, and he was teaching people about himself. And so there is these 2 groups of people that Jesus is talking about. One over here is the Jews, right? The Jewish people at that time. And Jesus was really trying to teach them certain lessons. And when Jesus teaches, I really like it, because he teaches like using story. And so I like play a movie in my head when I'm reading like these words of Jesus, because he's like telling me a story. And so I love to put it in like movie form. And then there's this other group over here called the Gentiles. I'm sorry, that's in the Bible. But there's the Jews and there's the Samaritans, is what we're talking about today. And so the Samaritans was this other group, and the Jews thought they were better. The Jews were like, we're the chosen people. We're the people that are the best, right? And we see groups like that when we're at school. The groups who are the cool kids, who think they're the best, who think they run the school. Then there's the Samaritans on that side, and they hated the Jews. Like, not like a slight dislike. Like, they hated the Jews, because they're like, who do they think they are, thinking they're better than everybody else? And so Jesus is telling people this story, right? And I'm just going to kind of read it from my notes, because it's a longer story. So one group thought that they were better. And a man from the crowd asked Jesus, what is the most important command? Jesus got asked this question a lot. What is the number one thing we have to do? What's the most important thing? And Jesus always answered with 2 things. Jesus said, love God and love people. Right? You might have heard it said, love God and love your neighbor. Right? So somebody from the crowd asked him, and Jesus responded, love God and love your neighbor. The guy asked the question to follow up. He wants to make sure he gets it right. He said, who is my neighbor? And this guy is all of us, right? We're all asking, who is our neighbor? Who are these people that I'm supposed to let into my group? He wants to know who the in crowd is and who the out crowd. So Jesus does what he does best, and he answers in a story. And he says a Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho, and he was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, they beat him up, and they left him half dead beside the road. And so, again, Jesus is telling this story. This Samaritan is walking, or this Jewish person is walking. He gets beat up, stripped of his clothes, like almost dead, lying on the ground. And then somebody is walking to pass by, and it's actually a religious leader at that time. So this religious leader walks past, sees a fellow Jew lying there, almost dead on the ground. And he keeps walking. And what Jesus is trying to say through this story is there's this high and mighty kind of priest. And even though, you would expect the pastor, the priest, the head religious guy to help him up. His fellow Jew, help him up. Give him food, take him to a hospital. And he walked past him. And Jesus says, another guy walks past. And just leaves him there. And this was another leader for the Jewish people, for the temple. And he walks past again. And so people are listening to the story. They're like, Jesus, like, what the heck? Like, our people would have helped him up. And then a Samaritan. He's called in the Bible and through stories the Good Samaritan. Sees his enemy, this Jewish man lying on the ground, almost dead. And he walks past him, and there was that piece of him inside, right? Remember when we talked about there's something inside that we know we need to help. We know we need to let that person inside of our group. We know we need to go and reach out to somebody, and there's something in us holding us back. Just like that Samaritan, and he stopped. And he looked at him, and he didn't kick him. He didn't laugh at him. He didn't put it on a Snapchat story. But what he did is he helped him up. He didn't just help him up. He put him on his donkey. He rode him to an inn. He cleaned him up. The Bible says he put wine and olive oil on his cuts to clean him up. He went to the innkeeper and gave the innkeeper money. And he said, take care of him. I'll be back in a couple days to check up on him. Here's money. I'll be back in a couple days, so if he gets charged even more, I'll give you even more money. And I just think of myself, I'm like, man, so many times, I wanted to go tell somebody about Jesus, and I just, like the religious leader, walked past the person I knew who needed help. So many times I saw that homeless guy sitting in the corner begging for money, and I was just like that temple leader, and I just walked past him and didn't give him anything. So many times I was like that in my group. I saw a kid eating lunch at a table all by himself. I didn't get up and invite him to eat with me. I kind of just looked over there and drew my attention back to my friend and started talking about the sports game that happened that night. Right? Our whole main point is this, is go and be for everyone. That Samaritan kind of love. Right? Going to be for everybody, whether they're our enemies, whether they look different, act different, maybe they even annoy us. But I think back to that person who asked Jesus, what's the most important commandment? And Jesus says, love God and love people. That's the most important thing in our entire lives. Right? If Jesus says, this is the God who created me said, this is the most important thing ever. I'm like, all right, I gotta listen to that. I want to know and I want to do the most important thing ever. What I was created for. And so he says, love God and love people, and that is that Samaritan love. And I want to be thinking through that this week myself. It's okay, the Good Samaritan. How can I be a good Samaritan? How can I be for everybody? Even the people that are different than me. Because that is what Jesus is all about. Jesus is not about our one group and just leaving it at that. Right? That's why I love our church. I love Eastlake, right? Because Eastlake is we're not just a club of Christians who are going to sit here and just talk about Jesus by ourselves. But we're going to do everything we can to invite people to get to know Jesus. We're going to do everything we can to invite people into our group, to invite people into our family. It might be uncomfortable. Some people might come and it might be weird, and we might look differently to other people, and we don't care because we know God's heart is to be for everyone. We know God's heart is to be that Samaritan. We have iHeart CV coming up. If you don't know what that is, that's where we literally shut down services all weekend at church. We're not going to have high school service. We're not going to have service downstairs. We're not going to have middle school service. But what we're going to do is literally go into the community and be for everyone. What we're going to do is literally, I'm going to take a group to go paint a school. I'm going to go pick up trash on the side of the road. And that might look so embarrassing. But literally go pick up trash because Jesus wants me to be for everyone. And if that means picking up trash, that's what it means. But that is the heart of our church. That's the heart of God. And I absolutely love it. That we have a culture where it's to be for everyone. And so it's, how do we do this? How do we be for everyone? How do we love our neighbor? And so one of the ways is to decide who our neighbor is, right? Loving your neighbor is a good idea. It's not kind of the coolest thing, right? It's so much easier to love our friends than to love everybody, right? This is how I break it down for people. My non-Christian friends love their friends, right? That's what they love, their friends. They don't love everybody. They don't have the heart inside of them to be like, yeah, I'm gonna love everybody. But as Christians, we're supposed to be different than everybody else. And that means we don't just love the easy people to love. We love the hard people to love. We love the annoying people at our school. We love the people who are sitting by themselves and we're like, man, this is going to mess up my reputation if I leave my group to go sit with them, or if I even invite them into my group. I'm going to be looked at differently. And as Christians, the Bible says we're supposed to be set apart from the world. We're supposed to be different. Not in a weird way. Like, I love rap music. I love hanging out with my non-Christian friends. Like, I love all of these other things. It doesn't mean that we only have to listen to Christian music, only have to watch some cheesy Christian movies, and all these things. But it means the way we treat people is going to be different. And so, decide who your neighbor is. That's the first thing. And I'm sure all of us in here can think of one person. And I'm not talking our next door neighbor, just go knock on their door. But our neighbor at school. Maybe it's that one person you see sitting at lunch. Maybe it's that one person who always comes up to you and asks you questions, right? I remember that would happen to me. And I try and ignore their questions because I'm like, I don't really want to have a conversation with you. Maybe it's like, you know what, I'm going to invite him to hang out after school. I'm going to invite her to hang out after school. So decide who your neighbor is. Even write it in your notes section on your phone. Just one name. Like, the Bible is great, but if we never apply it to our lives, it's just knowledge that goes into our head. But what the Bible is all about is transforming. That's what Jesus is all about, is transforming our lives. So it's thinking through that person. And then, number 2, take a step towards your neighbor. Take a step. And what I love about steps is it's an action. It means actually doing it. So we wrote their name down. Now we got to take a step. This week, how am I actually going to do this? How am I going to do this? Right? We think of these steps, and I think of the steps Jesus took. Right? Jesus, kind of like this Jewish person in the story, right? He was beaten, half dead for us. Right? I get this picture in my head from the movie The Passion of the Christ, right? And I just remember the actor who was playing Jesus, this blood and this beating that he took because he was God, because he is God. And Jesus then had to carry this heavy cross. I think it was, I might be wrong, it was like 40 pounds, 50, 80, somewhere in that range. And he had to carry this cross up a mountain, because that's where he was going to be crucified. He carried his own death up a mountain, carrying a cross that Jesus fell to the ground, and the guards had to bring in this random person in and help Jesus up the mountain. And I'm only saying this because steps can be painful, right? Jesus took steps up the mountain to die on the cross for our sins so that we can have a relationship with him forever. He took those steps up a mountain so we can take our steps to love our neighbor. To love our neighbor. To go talk to somebody. To let people into our groups. To make friendships. And so that's just what I want you guys to be thinking about this week as you're heading back into school out of this break. Pastor Tim and I and Pastor Keith and our whole team pray for you guys every single day. Every single day that you guys will shine a light on your campus for Jesus. Every single day that we read all the prayer requests on the connection cards. Because we care about you guys and we want to see you guys go into your school and just love people and be for everybody. And so that's what this is all about. And so, speaking of connection cards, we have the connection card also on the app that you can just pull up. Fill it out. Write down prayer requests. Fill it out and talk about your next steps with Jesus. Because literally that's why we're here. Like, we're not here, we don't just come in once a week to jump on a stage, to speak for 30 minutes and then go home. Like, we're literally here to walk with you guys every step of the way as you guys are following Jesus, as you guys are being for everyone. If you don't want to download the app or you don't have it, we have some connection cards and pens at that purple table over there, which is just another way. So we're going to end it tonight. Let's put a song on and a countdown for 1 minute, and everybody just fill out a connection card. Because we believe connection is the true part of friendship. And so, cool, I'm going to pray for us, then we're going to fill those out, and then Tim will come back on and dismiss us. All right, dear Jesus, we just thank you so much today. We thank you that your message is not just for a certain amount of people. Your message